Assalamu Alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah wa sallallahu ala nabi al-ummi. In the blessed month of Ramadan, the question of brushing the teeth comes up quite often. And in the last few days, at least 2 brothers have asked. So I thought I'd make a short video about it, inshallah. So the discussion, we can start with the Hadith, in which something to the effect, it is mentioned that the scent, scent, the smell or the odor of the mouth of a fasting person is beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and more liked than the musk, the smell of the sweet musk. So the hadith, under the 2 schools of thought, the Shafi'is have taken that as the odor of a person who hasn't cleaned their mouth. And the Hanafi view is no, that has nothing to do with cleaning itself. It's the odor of the emptiness or the hunger that a person has, or the natural odor that will come out of the mouth. That is what is intended by the hadith, and not necessarily someone who hasn't cleaned their mouth. And then when we add to this another ruling, or a ruling of fiqh, where it is mentioned that tasting something such as food and so on unnecessarily when one is fasting is makruh, is disliked. So they do give examples of the opposite, where if, for example, a woman is serving food and she knows some of the people that will be eating the food are picky, so she can taste the food, spit it out, and that will not be disliked for her. But if we take the scenario where there's no need to taste, then when you put the 2 and 2 together, the hadith and the view that kind of like the Shafi'i way of looking at it, plus the unnecessary need to taste, it basically becomes against the idea of brushing the teeth. So many reasons are brought up because of, so that a person is not able to do brushing and so on. But if we go back to the hadith, things become much more clear. So there's a hadith that mentions a sahabi states that we see Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam doing so much miswak that we could not keep track of the number. So this is speaking of fasting. So he was in a state of fast, he would miswak so often that we just lost track of counting. So that means Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was extremely careful with his oral hygiene. So now, those of us who have used the miswak, we clearly know miswak has a taste, it has a smell, and it has a minty burn to it. So it actually has a lot of burn. If you take a fresh one and you're brushing, even a little bit of that nectar or the natural oils or whatever of it, when they come out, they literally burn your skin because it's so fresh. So miswak has almost all the characteristics of toothpaste. So Mufti Ridha al-Haq, in his Fatawa Darul Uloom Zakaria in volume 3, page 303, has suggested that we revisit the idea of calling brushing with a toothpaste and so on as makruh. He says that we should revisit it because miswak has the same characteristics. So we should really think about that. That is not about, because especially when you look at the hadith where Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has done miswak so many times, the Sahaba say we lost track. So that clearly shows that a person is able to and is encouraged actually to take care of their oral hygiene. And I hope to sidetrack, but the bigger thing that we should focus on during our fast is leaving sins. And the sins have odor that the saintly people talk about, that sins have their own bad odor and a bad smell. And we kind of deduce the same thing from the hadith, where it mentions those who commit fornication and zina and sins of sexual nature, they will have such a bad odor emitting from their private parts that will be a further torture to the people of Jahannam. That will be a further torture. The disgusting smell coming out of their private parts will be a further torture for the people of Jahannam around them. So we should focus on our sins that we commit during the day and fast, and focus on them and avoiding them. May Allah make it easy for us, because there's other hadith that also mentions that if somebody is not letting go of bad language and bad behavior and sins, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need of the person leaving food and drink. And the hadith that I just quoted, I'm paraphrasing, so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to focus on the important parts of fasting, and I'm not undermining the fiqh rulings, but may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it really easy for us to focus on the soul of the fast, and may Allah make it easy for us to benefit from the blessed month. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu ala